Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Lack of Focus, our little impromptu episode. And I have taken over the hosting duties for this little impromptu. My name is Ed, and of course, I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Mr. Sean Dorsey. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
Good, Ed. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. And our wounded warrior himself, one Mr. Chris Sheriff. Chris, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, good. Thanks, Ed.
So we don't really have a topic necessarily. We were genuinely planning on recording a show without Chris because he's had some issues, which we will be talking about here shortly. And we were going to be talking about aquariums and Steam decks and all kinds of stuff. And that way, we may still get to those. But of course, Chris, being the amazing person that he is, said, "Oh well, if you guys are going to record tonight, I'll hop on if I can." And here he is. So let's just get the elephant out of the room. What do you say there, Chris? Because we didn't get
Yeah.
any details. We talked about this in the pregame show, and we're like, "Do you want to hear now, or do you want to wait for the show?" Like, nope, podcast cold. I want to hear on the show. So take it away, my friend.
So I don't actually think we've spoken since Adepticon
Not
because,
like this.
like,
No, we've
oh,
chatted and but not
yeah,
not like
like
this.
as in, I don't think we've recorded anything. We didn't find the time to actually record in person together at Adepticon. Um,
Chris
so it's
didn't find
it.
the time.
True. I mean, true.
Chris,
I will shoulder that burden.
Chris was very busy.
Yeah. So yeah, let's roll it back all the way to Adepticon and talk about that for a little bit because we've not done that. You
It
know.
might as well. Might as
Yeah.
well.
So, as we discussed on our last lack of focus, me and Ed were in Adepticon. It was great.
We were
We were
had a good
sharing
time.
a hotel suite, so we got to hang out like all hours of the day when we were asleep.
When we were
Um,
All right, truth be told, Chris was working his ass off at Worlds.
yeah,
He would be up and out the door before I was even out of bed for breakfast, and we would go to sleep, and Chris would still be there at Worlds, either tearing down or setting up for the next day or whatever, the entire time. So we had plans. We had talked about Gabe and I brought stuff to paint. We were gonna paint models. We are just gonna have like a sit down and like jam session. We're gonna do dinners and stuff. And
yeah,
unfortunately, with Chris's schedule, that did not work out the way that we wanted it to. That having been said, it was completely understandable. Chris was doing a job, and he was doing a job well. And we did stop by every day to check on him, make sure he was doing well. We did get to have dinner one night. Got to beat up.
yeah. I made the time to make sure. Well, I begged Chris to let me have the time
Yes,
to
that's
hang
what it
out.
was.
So yeah, just the guys were really good. They let me disappear for one of the evenings. All of a side event. My focus at Worlds was just running all of the side events, and so I
Mhm.
ran probably at least 40 different pods, like 8-player pods.
Jesus.
I ran probably 12 sets of aces high at least. I ran a 38 player world's warm up event with no software, no pen and paper. That was fun because we were having software issues at the time the event was firing. So I paired people up by pointing at them and then pointing at the second person.
And that
Um,
wasn't the was that the last chance one that was
no,
the
that
first hit?
was no. This was while it's the last chance qualifier was running. Um, Later on in the day, it was supposed to be a three. Well, there was because I made it happen. There was a 3 round warm up tournament. So if you've already got your ticket to Worlds, you don't need to play in the last chance qualifier. Go and play in the Worlds warm up tournament. So a
I
bunch of
see, I
high
see.
level. We've all got our tickets to Worlds. We want to get some last minute practice in. So we want a real hardcore tournament. And I'm just at the you. Do you play this person every week? No. Okay, that's your opponent. Go and find a table. Just
That's cool.
Those
I
blasting
are the
can't
down like
best.
that. It was fun times.
I can't get over the competition level there because it dawned on me on day 2 when I swung by there. I got to swing by, the Gold Squadron, broadcast. Dion remembered me. I was honored and privileged that he actually genuinely remembered, um, who I was. Because one of the things I said to Chris is like, it's gonna be cool to hang out there because nobody knows who I am anymore because we're not much of a voice in that community, and there were still people who knew who we were. So
Yeah,
that made me feel warm and fuzzy. There's another story I'll share here lately that made me feel even more warm and more fuzzy and
yeah.
practically made me cry. Thank you, Chris, for that.
Oh,
Um, But it was kind of neat when I made that realization on day 2 that every single person that was there and that 'cause I at first I thought Worlds looked like it was smaller in years past, but
Yeah.
that was by design because everybody that was there won their way in.
Yes.
So there wasn't a soft opponent in the room is kind of what I'm getting at when it comes down to the competition level that
So
was
how many
more
players did they have? Because I haven't talked to you guys about this at all because I didn't even
So,
listen to the show.
last
So,
chance qualifier, I believe, was around about 180. I wanna say 188.
Mhm. And that
Maybe
was
100
bigger
and s yeah,
and that was
176
bigger than
maybe.
World. That was bigger than World.
I'll
Because
double check. I'll pull it
Worlds
up. I've got I was looking at this information earlier, doing some stuff I was supposed to sort out ages ago. Um, so I'll just pull it up. But yeah, I believe it was, around about it was at least 160, but,
that was
X-Wing last chance qualifier, 178, yeah, I was right. It's 178 for last chance qualifier.
that was
Uh,
just to try to win a chance to play in Worlds the next day.
yeah,
how many from that qualified?
I believe the number we were giving out during the qualifier was that 50 should make it through. I believe on the day we ended up closer to 60 players made it through from that.
Okay.
And
Um,
how that worked out was that they had a number of people who had their quote unquote seats reserved, and if they did not show up to Worlds, that was the number of seats that was available.
yeah.
So it could have been anywhere from 8, 14, whatever it was, and that just happened to be the number that they had with that
Yeah, like,
number.
Okay. So it
we
was
were
just
pretty confident we would get 50, so that was a number we were publicly talking about. But,
okay.
the final total for players at Worlds, in the actual real World Championship was 190. So,
And I
yeah.
do you remember when Worlds had like 400 players before? And that was where it was capped at. They did them in like 2 different days. That's to me as I was like, because that was the other
So
thing
if you
before.
think about, 190 includes, let's call it 60 from the last
Sure.
chance qualifier. So you're actually looking at 300 and what, 18 players? Is that math correct? Something like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere around
In
318
there.
there. Yeah.
individual players, if you include the last chance qualifier, is not a small
Well,
number,
it's
I think
it's not. And then
considering the
Worlds
game's
was
dead, everyone's told me.
oh,
Like,
that's what I keep hearing. It
yeah,
didn't look like it to me. But you
um,
gotta consider it was 10 rounds of Swiss, and then you had the last chance qualifier. So, like, if I'm not mistaken, there were some of the people that had made it into the final day that had played in the last, uh,
yeah,
the
people played all the way through, and
right,
but I
exactly.
believe Andrew Cox, who was in the final, um, played
That's
through
what
the
it
last
was.
chance qualifier, and he
So,
go on, Sean.
well, I was gonna say, so you're talking about 10 rounds of play. Does that include day 2
Yeah.
So
with the
yeah, it was
cut?
10 rounds of Swiss, theoretically, but it was, I believe it was 3 and 2s made it through, and if your record was it might have even been 4 and 1s, but you had to have, I think it was 3 and 2 record to make it through to day 2,
Hmm.
and then we cut to top 8, I believe, for day 3.
Oh, okay. So they had a day 1. I'm guessing that was the
So
last
what was the
chance
last chance
qualifier,
qualifier, day 1, it was
then the
5
Swiss
rounds of
rounds of
Swiss.
world.
If you won 3, I believe it
Gotcha.
was 3 I might be wrong. I'm gonna
No,
say 3 for the sake of it. If you
I think it
won
was because when I talked to Richard, whenever he found out that once he lost his 3rd game, he was out, he dropped.
yeah, um,
Was that Richard Sue?
Yeah,
yeah,
saw him in person, shook his hand and everything.
Yeah.
yeah, and then I believe after that, I think it was still close to 100, players left in it, I believe. I can't remember how the Swiss Triangle works out. As you can probably tell by this, I didn't do much with the actual World Championships.
Actual
I was
event, yeah.
yeah,
So
I
you did what I did at Adepticon,
yeah,
when I was there, because it was Brent Wong and I who did all the side events, and then they had the main event thing, the big, what was it, the System Open going at
yeah.
that time.
Well, I was joking because obviously the multitude of Chris's who judge X-Wing events were all so,
It was pretty high.
yeah, but you had Chris Allen as the event organizer. You had
Okay.
Tim Hornsborough as the head judge. You had Chris Mitchell from the UK, was doing a well, sorry, from Canada, who lives in the UK. Used to game in Sentry Box, because obviously the world's filled with useless, little idiosyncrasies. Um, then you had, Dion from obviously Fly Better representing the East Coast, sorry, West Coast of America. You had, Josh, I wanna say Josh Taylor? Sorry, Josh. Josh, do as, like, East Coast. So we had Australia, Europe, East and West Coast US, and Canada, all represented on the judging team. But they had, um,
All in their
2
cute AMG search. They look really nice and
yeah,
spiffy.
um,
Very nice.
we had, the 2 Chris's were running the Worlds, and I was running, like, everything else. So it's like, "Well, you guys between you have only run half a tournament each. I've run, like, 50 this weekend, so I'm obviously the best Chris." But yeah, I judged the painting competition, for all of the factions. I ran Siege of Coruscant event, I ran a Battle of Yavin event, we ran Droid Soccer. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, pretty intense all the way through.
And that
I
was
think
only one section of where AMG was set up. They also had an Armada, the full Worlds for Armada there. They had the Worlds for Legion there. It was pretty like this. I mean, if you've been to Adepticon. It's in the same place, so like you know how
Mhm.
gigantic. They had literally one full section that was just AMG, and
they were the title sponsor for the show this year as well.
I did not know that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And in the vendor room, they had the longest line for game demo ever with Shatterpoint that I couldn't even get into because the line was so damn long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I was
that's
there,
one of the things I'm
when
sad
I
about, I missed Shatterpoint. Sorry, Sean.
well, I was gonna say when I was there, so they had so if you were walking into the arena, from the concourse area, from the big,
Mhm.
where where all the vendors set up and stuff.
Yep.
You walk in there. When I did it, the far left was X-wing and Armada, and then back towards where they had the concession stand,
Mhm.
and then they had like open play space. Kind of in the middle there, in the back, was where all of our side game events were.
They
So
had
we were
no
split.
open areas. They had the everything all the way over to the concession stands consisted of world,
Really?
whether it be
Yeah, it
World
was
X-wing or World Armada or Legion was towards the front.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge.
Legion and MCP were the as you walked into the hall, the first games, X-Wing and Armada were hidden away in the back, as it should be, sweaty,
Hmm.
pre-painted gamers.
Yep. Yep.
But
And then
no,
they had the
it
vendor
was really
area
good.
in the middle, and then 40K was all over on the
The
far
other
right.
side, like
But
Bolt Action and all those other ones were over
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, it was really cool. I had a very rewarding time, I think is the best terminology for it.
he worked his ass off. I can
Yeah.
assure you.
Hmm.
Every time
Yep,
I
I
saw Chris,
understand.
Chris looked exhausted. It didn't matter what time of day I saw him; he looked
I think,
exhausted.
the f the, was it I think it might have been the Friday or the Saturday, I think I walked 26 kilometers.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez,
Yeah,
you
um,
walked a marathon.
yeah, well, yeah, it was decent, it was good, I enjoyed it. Um, so, what, I did get to do the D&D Onslaught event that I'd booked. It was the one thing I paid for. I paid to enter the one round $7 Dread Knight tournament thing. Um, so I went over there and Alex wasn't there. I missed Alex every time I managed to try and hit either the WizKids booth or the Onslaught bit. I missed Alex every
Yep.
time, so I was a little bit sad about that, but it is what it is.
I
Um,
never saw him. I never saw him. I saw Wade. I
yeah,
did not get to see
yeah.
him.
But I I turned up and was chatting to the person running the event there, and "Oh, I've been running demos. since before the game was out because I had all the launch kits and stuff. It was like, "Oh, great, okay, so you can just teach." Basically, I ran a demo for my opponent who'd never played because obviously they had people sign up for the event who'd never played. Luckily, it wasn't a real tournament. You didn't get the prizes for winning the match kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I still got the swag, which was fine. But then they did a roll off for winning the new box that came out this weekend. I think it was the Sellsword box, which I didn't win, so whatever. I got myself some shiny foil Death Knight cards, which I was happy with. But yeah, it was a little. I'm not. I'm not gonna blame them or have a go about it. That's not what I'm getting at. But obviously, I was working the entire weekend. The last thing I wanted to actually do was demo a different game for a different person on my time off.
Yeah.
But I put the face on and did the thing, this face, yay, cheery,
As
everyone, it was
as
great,
Chris
woo.
tends to do.
Yeah, and he had a good time. He obviously won the game, and it was all great. And and my opponent was actually the person who won the roll off to get the swag as
Oh,
well.
even
So
better.
yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's another onslaught player in the world, thanks to me. I'll
Yep.
take that as a win. But yeah, I was a little bit. I just wanted to chill out and play a game. But yeah, it was fine. Um,
So wait, you're saying that you taught someone how to play a game and you let them win, right? Like you're supposed to. So they're like,
no,
"Oh wow, this is a really cool
I
game."
would never let them win. They just happened to win because
This
I
happened
happened
to
to make bad choices.
I'm foreshadowing something later. I'll tell you about it later. I
Mm.
actually got a game of 40K in where that did not happen.
Ah, well. Um, so yeah, that was the night we actually got to hang out. We just took the easy option, went to Buffalo Wild Wings across the road from our hotel.
Yep.
But we got to hang out for a little bit that night. I just I didn't even sit on the couch when we got back to the suite. I was like just sat on the floor, just resting against the back of a couch, and just catching up. That was really nice. I'm sorry we didn't get to do more of it, but you
That's
know,
okay.
them's
Yeah.
the breaks.
And the breaks. From Gabriel and I's perspective, what we did, we didn't actually schedule any events. I think, in retrospect, that was probably a mistake. And then when we go next year, assuming Chris is going to be there again next year, we'll probably schedule to play in the 40K friendly event, next year. Simply because what ended up happening, the game plan for us going into it was, well, they've got all these free game demos. Let's just go and do these.
Right.
Which sounded like a really good idea, but when you have nothing else to do, when you have nothing else scheduled, you go through those game demos awfully quickly. We did play a bunch of cool games and some not so much. Um, it's interesting that it's interesting the eclectic group of people. Some of these well-established companies or companies that are just kind of getting getting started with their organization. Like they've got a game, they've got something for there. And some of them are you can tell are guys that design games in their basement and they're trying to get you to back their Kickstarter kind of thing. We played this old Wild West one, which was okay. A little bit more convoluted and a little bit more complex than I was hoping it would have been. That was kind of fun. We played a lot of God tier because Gabriel. It was one of those things where I basically dragged Gabe to a table because we had nothing else to do at that point in time. So we sat down and played the game, and he 100% got it right away and loved it, and like wanted to play like 17 more times.
God tier
Um,
is really good fun. I'm a
it
fan.
is. It's a good game. But they gave the same stock answer that I was getting actually kind of disappointed with, which is to me I felt like it was a bad decision. We got done playing that game and Gabe's like, "Cool, I want to buy this game. Can I buy the starter set?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have any here for sale."
Yeah.
Well, well, why
And
not?
and that is what drives me nuts, to be honest with you, is when you okay, so you're demoing a game now, as long okay, so if it's a game that's out, you should always have stock with you. You know what I mean? It's
I
other
agree.
otherwise it's too hard to get in. And the other thing is this is that when you go there and you're a vendor who's demoing a game, the highest chance of sales on a game is going to happen right after they've demoed the game.
Funny you should say that because quite like I said, like honestly, like we talked to Chris right after. Chris said, "Oh yeah, I've got a whole bunch of guides here at the store. I can probably send you something." I asked Gabe 2 days ago, 3 days ago if he was still interested. And he's like, ah, that's kind of worn off on me. Now that's different. If it had been there at the time, he'd
Yep.
100% bought it then and there, and we'd have had it home and
Great.
we'd be playing now. But because we're so far removed from it now, and he's like, no, 10th edition 40K is coming up. I'll talk about that in a second. But that's what he's more interested in doing now. So like he's like, oh, I'm not going to spend my money on that. I've got 10th edition coming.
Right.
If it had been there and had been in stock, we could have
But
picked
it's
one up
not
and walked
spending
off.
money, Eddie. I'll send it you for free. Jesus.
I, I know, I know. Well, we didn't know that at the time, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. No, I like God tier, but yeah, what else did we do? Um, I got to catch up with a lot of people. I was very head up my own ass trying to do work. So
He
sorry if
was.
you guys came. I like to think I pulled off being nice, friendly, and polite to everybody, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to do second runs a lot of times with people to like, yeah, I know who you are. Yeah, you know what I mean? And this is from, like, just everyone who, I've hung
He
out with
did to us
many
too.
times.
He didn't wait, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" No, I'm kidding, he did not do that. But 100%, you could tell he was like, I mean, it was chaotic. There was a lot of people there, um, just from the AMG side of it. So, I mean, I get it. Like, even every time I came up with it, Chris is in the middle of organizing something or drawing pictures as, "This is your prize for this for
That's
this
a story
event."
that's probably worth telling, yeah.
Oh, go
During, the first day of Worlds proper, we had, I had 3 rounds of pod starting. Pod 1 didn't finish sorry, pod 2 started before pod 1 had finished, and I didn't have enough for both events to be full capacity, and we didn't have the scope for me to be launching all of these events and answering judge calls. So it also meant that any judge calls would pull away from the people trying to run actual worlds. So I had to set the tone for this event very carefully. So,
I bear witness to this.
um, the patter goes as follows: I hand drew, because we had felt tip pens, so I got an A4 sheet of paper, folded it into quarters, and just ripped it into quarters as neatly as I could. It was neat, and then I drew a Venn diagram, or a goldfish, or a picture of a car, or a picture of a house. And it's like this, yeah, and then it was like I go through the names. You are in charge of pod goldfish. There is only one pod goldfish at World 2023. Here is your first place prize. It is a picture of a goldfish. There is only one of these at World 2023. If you'd like me to sign it, let me know. It's an official prize. The winner gets to keep it.
Did
There are
anybody take
no,
you up on
there's no, yeah, I signed at least 3 of them. Um, and yeah, so it was just unique hand drawn pictures. And I was like, this is a winner's prize. In addition to that, we have tickets for prize wall. It wasn't a prize wall. We had golden tickets, and it's like there'll be enough tickets that would evenly distribute between everyone playing 3 each. You can distribute them however you like. I'll say again, they evenly distribute 3 each. If you want to do a winner gets 24 and everyone else gets none, that's okay. If I get called back to a pod to adjudicate an issue with how the tickets are gonna be distributed, everybody gets 1, and I remove 16 tickets from the prizing, and then I walk away.
I believe he said he'd just throw them away.
Yeah, yeah,
"I'll just throw these away and nobody gets them and you all get one."
yeah. Unsurprisingly, there were no issues for distributing prizes, very few judge calls, and, everyone kind of got what I was putting down. It's like, "Look, we want you to have fun. Please, if you wanna have a sweaty competitive pod, that's okay. Just make sure everyone playing in your pod buys into that, and,
Hmm.
try to not disturb the judges so they can do their jobs."
Yep.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
totally saw that happen.
yeah, it was, that same patter. Oh, I I lost count of the number of pictures that I drew. It was, an exercise in creativity, we'll say that,
I can imagine.
because they all had to be unique. Because then I can't lie, if there's only 1 pod goldfish, there can't be a second pod goldfish.
That's
Right.
right.
Could be a trout, but not a goldfish.
Yeah,
Totally get it.
That's right. It may look the same, but it's not the same.
I could use a different color pen, I suppose, but,
Yeah.
I think my favorite highlight was, um, purple meeple wearing brown shoes. That was
Purple
a good
meeple
one.
wearing brown shoes.
Yeah. And then there was pod picture of a Venn diagram. So it wasn't a Venn diagram because it didn't contain any information, but it was a picture of what a Venn diagram would look like. So
Mm,
Fair. This is
so
gotcha.
fair.
so pod picture of a Venn diagram was another highlight for me. But yeah, it was a good day. Lots of fun. Um, but yeah, I think that kind of covers a bunch of Adepticon. I was
I
glad.
have one other thing I want to cover, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So the highlight of Adepticon 2023 for me, and God, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but
Steve,
Chris, what was it?
Steve, when you got to
Steve.
meet
Thank
Steve.
you, thank you, thank you. And I apologize, Steve, because I know you're listening. So Chris had sent me a text, said, "Hey, are you guys?" Because it. All right. So this is, I think, day 2 or day 3. That was around the point in time that Gabe and I started running out of stuff to do. Like we had bought stuff. I bought some sisters models, and we were Gabe and I were building them in the. We went back to the hotel room for lunch and just kind of stayed there and we're building models. And Chris was like, "Hey, you're coming over. People are asking if they want to come and say hi to you." I'm like, "Oh, I wonder who could." That's where I was like, "Well, who could possibly even remember who I was?" And I'm so glad that I did, because Chris kind of pointed in a corner. Yeah, there's a guy over there. He looks like this. His name's Steve. He wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay, cool. But I didn't pick up who it was. Like I even asked Gabe, like, do you know who he was pointing to? I was like, was it that guy? Was it that guy? So we just kind of waited. And then Chris took me over and introduced me to Steve. Is a listener that has been listening to us since Nova. He has been listening to us in his ear holes for almost 8 years, 9 years. God, how long has it been?
Yeah.
It was so heartwarming. It was so, like it almost brought me to tears when I walked away. To have met someone that has been listening to us from when we started a fledgling podcast talking about this obscure game, to getting it to the heights where it was for Nova, to dropping off and then picking up this show, and then he's just continued to roll through all the
Mm,
iterations. It was the highlight. Everything else about Adepticon was cool. Meeting all the cool people we did, got to see the stuff that we did was cool. That to me is the one thing that I'm going to remember probably for the rest of my life. It was so cool just meeting him. It was so neat. So to be able to have met someone that has been listening to my voice, our voices, I should say, in his ear holes that long. God, you've got some dedication, my friend.
no kidding. Especially if you had to listen to me for that long.
Yeah. Oh, it was really
Ah,
nice. He him and his sons, both their lists made it through to best painted. They got painted by the same guy in the UK, so he was really happy to.
Mm,
I think he won best painted first order and got second for Empire. Um,
ooh.
gotcha.
so he's really happy to share that and like so uh, tell his friend back home that he'd won a bunch of stuff. So that was cool.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
did he give the artist credit?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I should get the artist's name as well. I can give the artist credit because that was, do, 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 do. I'm good at this. Um, Ryan Coyle from the UK painted,
Here you go.
uh, he got he painted 2 at least 2 squads that I saw at Worlds were definitely both his, and it made it through to top 2 in Empire and First Order. So
There, see, you've
and
gotten full
Stockholm was
credit
in
in
a
our
first
run.
order. Yeah, yeah.
And then the other highlight, of course, for me being at Adepticon was we got to go to the Warhammer preview by Games Workshop. That was it was interesting because as we're so Adepticon was kind of nuts day one because the gates open. I want to say it was like 7 o'clock to go
Yep.
and do your check-in. So we meandered over there, I think around like 6:15-ish to go in the line, thinking, oh, 45 minutes ahead of time. Well, no, no. There were thousands of people in line waiting.
Oh yeah.
And we knew that 9 o'clock, I think it was 9 o'clock, correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe it was 9 o'clock was when the Warhammer thing. And that was the one thing that I really wanted to see that day. It was one of the main reasons I wanted to be there. And as we stood in that line and we watched time go by and we watched time go by, we were standing in line with these other guys, who are old vets from Adepticon, like, oh yeah, no, they'll release all that stuff, like, and, you'll see it online 20 minutes after you've gone through and see it, so it's not really worth going in through it. But I'm like, but I still kind of want to see it. And
Right.
to be fair, I did watch their live stream after, and they covered stuff in the live event that was not covered in the live stream that didn't come out until much, much later in articles that they had talked about. So there were things that were discussed in that live event that were not discussed in the live stream that they did on Twitch. It was not discussed until much, much later. So I'm very happy that it did. But of course, it was fantastic. As the event starts going, I start hearing these sultry tones of probably the most mellow human being you've ever heard. And I'm like, that's Mike Brandt. I know those words. And I'm like, you haven't lived until you've had a drink in your hand as Mike Brandt is strumming away on a guitar in the top suite of the hotel at Nova Open. But I've done that, and it was so cool to hang out with him and hang out with the guys to see the announcement for 10th edition, because of course they did the Mimi thing. They talked about a new Sean, this is probably not going to mean anything to you. They talked about the Lionel Johnson returning, which is kind of a big deal, and the fact that a loyalist Primarch is returning to 40K. And then they went into all of the other games. They covered every other game, and then they kind of like everyone's like, "Where's 10th edition?" And so they opened it up for a Q&A, and one of the first questions, I don't know who this guy was. This guy is my hero. One of the first questions was, "So when's the new version of Space Hulk coming out?" And if that joke doesn't make sense to you, Space Hulk has always been Space Marine Terminators versus Tyranid, and the
Right.
preview videos that Games Workshop had been releasing leading up to that had showed a Terminator and a Tyranid, and the joke was, "Oh, it's not 10th edition; they're just releasing a new version of Space Hulk." So that whoever that guy was, that guy is a baller, because that was such a and Mike Brandt laughs about it and goes, "Oh, all right." And then they do all the 10th edition stuff, and they go through the 10th edition videos and the announcement and the Q&A that they did after, which was fantastic. So that was really kind of cool. And then, of course, Gabe and I ran back to the hotel room, put the live stream up, and they did not cover all the things. So to the guys that we were standing in line, I don't know if you ever are going to hear this, you were inaccurate. It was worth it to go through and sit there, and I would sit through it again. So that was it was just kind of cool to kind of be there in person and be one of the first people in the world to be able to hear it officially come out of Games Workshop's mouth, and still struggling with the idea like, oh yeah, that's right, Mike Brandt is officially Games Workshop now. I totally forgot about that.
Really?
So
Yeah.
he started working with them when ninth edition came out, and my understanding was that it was mostly for the tournament events and running events and doing stuff like that. But I think his role has expanded, because that was not the
Hmm.
title that he gave whenever he um announced himself at the event.
Gotcha. Okay.
So congratulations to Mike going up in the world, and hopefully we see him again at Nova.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was about it. I mean, we played some fun games, but like I said, it got to the point where we were supposed to leave on Monday. We ended up leaving on Sunday instead. Mostly because I knew that World's Finals were going on, and that meant that Kris was probably going to be his busiest, because you had a whole bunch of X-Wing players that were not in the top 8 that would
It
probably
Right.
be wanting to do something else. We
it
swung
wasn't so much
by.
that, it was like it was always gonna be an X-wing, like, all the judges, we all went out together afterwards on the Sunday kind of thing, so,
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
there's no way I was gonna ditch the team out after that. I like you, Ed, but, a sense
Nor
of
would I have
social responsibility.
Nor would I have asked you to. So we did end up driving home a little bit day earlier, which is kind of nice because I already had Monday off from work. It was kind of nice to kind of reacclimate. Did have my first. This is my first time. It dawned on me driving out there and driving back. It's the first time I've ever driven over the time zone line before in my life. I've flown over it plenty of times, but I've
Yeah.
never drove over it before. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Um, Waze fucked me on the way out of there, and we ended up taking us a different way through. And there was this weird thing where you're supposed to go left at this off ramp and then right and then the left again, and I made the left and the right and then the right again. So I ended up in downtown Chicago with
Ooh.
yeah. So I was concerned like, oh great, this is gonna like burn 30 minutes as I try to figure out how the fuck to get out of this out of the city. But luckily for me, I may have pulled an illegal U-turn and got right back around and it was good. I made sure to do it far enough away from the cops. But yeah, no, I was good.
Yeah.
Good
Um,
trip, good
That's
times.
cool.
Came back with a bunch of cool stuff. Overall had a really, really good time. Definitely will be doing it again. Definitely will be signing up for a specific event to do so that we have a day to be filled with, even if it's a team event for or the 40K friendly. Oddly, so normally with these gigantic GTs for 40K, usually the singles event is the main event.
Gotcha.
At Adepticon, it is not. It is the team event. And they say that going into it, like, singles is cool, but they had a lot less singles players in the
Hmm.
40K main event than they did for the team event
Gotcha.
and the 40K friendly. Like, both of those events are more important to Adepticon than the singles event. So that's what we'll do next time. Gabe and I will go in as a team, and it should be fun.
cool.
Did they
Oh,
have so did they have space for people to sit down and play board games and stuff?
They
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
They had an
Okay.
entire room dedicated to just that. They had a little checkout area. That's where a lot of the game demos that we went to play were set up as well. Like we did the Snapship one, which is basically Legos. We played a lot of X-Wing clones. I don't know how else to put that. A lot of games that look, and felt. They had their own little twist. They had their own little, this rule's a little bit different than that rule kind of thing, but
Right.
overall, a lot of um, flight path mechanics that felt extraordinarily familiar. So whenever we sat down for the Snapship one, the guy's like, "Oh yeah, no, these demos usually take like 2 hours." Gabe and I finished a game in 25 minutes because we're like, "Oh yeah, no, all these rules make sense, 100%. How does this work again?" Like, "Oh yeah, great. Missiles are overpowered. You need to look into that." And then boom, move, moved on and played another game at the demo when we were there. So yeah, they still had the big room for that. They still had all that. And there's all kinds of stuff going on. Like they had people playing games out in the hallways, they had people playing games in the vendor rooms, they had people playing games pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of just pickup stuff. Like I walked by like what I was really surprised with, and one of the things I may need to look into, there was a huge presence from Catalyst Games there and Battletech. And I mean, I'd heard of BattleTech. I've heard of BattleTech since I was a kid, but I didn't realize how big that game was.
I think
They
didn't they
had
just do a Kickstarter?
they did for their next
The
for their next expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
BattleTech is probably as a system, the and it is probably the highest selling one in Sentry Box after anything by Games Workshop.
yeah, see, and I didn't
Really?
know
That
that
makes
going in,
sense.
and I was
That makes sense.
really surprised at the amount of people that were there. They had a tournament table going on. They had live streams going there. They had live streams from the developers there, and I mean, and quite literally, you couldn't miss them because in order to get to anywhere where all the events were, you had to pass by the gigantic Space Marine and then Catalyst Games and their gigantic setup for everything that they had BattleTech, and they did it right. And they had the whole store there. Anything you wanted to buy that they had that was ever one of their Kickstarters, the
Yep.
special stuff, anything that you wanted was all sitting right there, and you could literally talk to the game developers because they were right there. So that might be something I might have to look into.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ready for a whole new game system. I still have to do stuff for 40K first,
Sure,
but
sure, sure.
BattleTech seems to be the game that's kind of moving to the forefront. Like at the game shop where like the Legion stuff was, it's now like BattleTech, and then they moved Legion to another area. And I can see where BattleTech's becoming a pretty popular again. I think it's always been popular, but it's been one of those
There's
games
been
that's kind
nothing
of.
to buy for it has been the main problem.
I was just say, yeah. I mean, I know that a lot of people that play it bitched and moaned because they couldn't get anything new. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
sudden now they're kicking it back into gear and you know
Well, and
re.
that property has changed hands a few times. Like the BattleTech that I remember was in the hands of FASFA. And my understanding and the little bit of research I did when I got back from Adepticon is it went from FASFA to some other company. I can't remember them. And then from FASFA, from that company over to Catalyst Games. So like it's changed hands multiple times as far
See, and
as
I
who
remember so my introduction to BattleTech was, oh, way, way, way back when, like Commodore 64 time frame
same,
when
same.
they had the BattleTech, games. They were the
And
turn-based games.
and the cartoon on TV.
See, I don't remember that,
Oh my
but
god, it was that's how I got 'em bo I got the double whammy. I got the PC the games on computer, and I got the cartoon on Saturday morning. 100% remember that.
Do you not
yeah,
have
and
BattleTech on Steam?
I don't, but I can
You
go and
should.
probably pick it up.
It's a pretty accurate representation from what I gather.
yeah, I
And
have
the
Battle. Yeah,
campaigns, but you've played it, Sean. I remember seeing
yeah,
you on Steam a few times playing it.
yep, yeah, I
Yeah, I
have
think
it,
it's
and
good. I've
it's very intense as far as your computer goes.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a beast. I know that my old computer, I couldn't run it very well. With this one, I can. But it's just a beast. But it's a cool game, though.
yeah.
Because you're in a battle, you're in a mech.
Mm.
Oh, no, I don't mean Mech Warrior. It's in the
Oh
turn-based strategy game.
no, I didn't know about that. I'll have to look at that
Yeah, I'll
later.
send you guys the link. I'll
I'm
post it in
pulling
the
up the
show
Steam
notes
Deck.
for everyone, and I'll post it. But
I'm
yeah,
pulling up the Steam Deck right now, Sean. At least put it on my wish list at minimum.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've played through the campaign for that. It's good fun.
All right, but that's it. That's all I've got from my Adepticon. So you had a little bit of after action fun with Adepticon there, Chris.
Yeah, so this is where it all starts going downhill.
Those were the highlights.
Yeah, well, I left on the Monday. My flight was supposed to be like 7 p.m. So I knew I was going to have a nice relaxing day. Checkout from the hotel was like 11, so I got to have a lie in, slow time, repack all my bags and everything to try and fit all of the stuff I was trying to bring back in, and then I head over to the hotel, had breakfast with, one of the guys, Alex, who I was traveling back to Calgary with. I was on the same flight as me. Um, Chris Allen, Andrew Cox, a couple of other people from, like, the X-Wingy stuff. We just all like, we're all still there, so we just had breakfast, like, a brunch. And then we shared an Uber to the airport around about 2 o'clock because Chris's flight was at like 4, and like might as well. Sitting around the hotel is no different than sitting around the airport.
Pretty much
Then
about the
my
same.
got there and the flight didn't have a gate. I was like, oh, okay, that's always a bad sign. So I went to the gate where the internet told me it should be, and sure enough, it's like um, different flights at that time. Like, okay. Still no extra information, so I'm gonna sit around here. Then, like, 10 minutes before the flight's supposed to leave, they announced it's delayed. Like, "Oh, weird, who knew?" Um, so yeah, I ended up getting home at, like, um, landing around about 2 a.m., getting an Uber back to, the house, which I've never I didn't even know Uber worked in Calgary. Um, but I got an Uber back to the house and just, like, let myself in and went to bed straight away. Then, started unpacking the next day. Day after that, the COVID hit. I was testing negative all the way through, but, I infected Jill and the kids, and they were all testing positive. Um, but
We luckily got away with 0 con cred. That having been
yeah.
some we got back, my wife had taken the kids to a water park, and they were sick there, and Gabe got sick from that, but we did not get sick from the con.
Yeah, I had 3 days where I was alternating, like, fever and chills kind of thing. I recorded a deploy of a garrison on a lot of, um, like, paracetamol, where I burned through my energy in the first 20 minutes to try and, get the show done.
Had that energy
And,
to start it.
yeah, and then, like, at the end of the show, I'm just like, "Oh, I'm so done." Um, but that took me through until the Sunday. Um And Monday, I was pretty healthy. Jill was feeling really bad. Ayla was a little bit ill, and Evie was okay. But I went out and was running the D&D Onslaught demos at Ogre's Den in Calgary that I'd organised to run. That's when I got a message because obviously all through that time I'd been tested negative for COVID. But then Jill sent me a message while I'm in the middle of running a demo for someone. Oh yeah, we're all testing positive for COVID now. So I'm like, oh, great. Um, so I kind of like it's evidently too late. I saw him today and it was fine. No, today on Saturday and it was fine. But that luck rather than judgment, I suppose. Um, so then I get home on Monday night and then I get heartburn again, which I'd not had heartburn since I was taking the medication the doctor prescribed me. Um, Generally, when I get it, it's pretty bad. It's like a 5 out of 10 on the pain scale. No medication was doing anything. Anti-heartburn stuff does nothing.
Oh,
Um,
was the worst.
yeah, it was just not nice, and I was like pretty frustrated because I've been taking this medication for over a month. I thought it was working, and obviously I just hadn't gotten heartburn. So
I
Yeah.
guess that
unfortunate.
happened.
Yeah. Um, Ended up it didn't go normally it goes where well, normally I get that tired from just being in pain that the exhaustion overtakes it, and I'll fall asleep, but
Yep.
that didn't
I I
happen. Yeah.
I know that feeling.
So I got through to, 8 AM, having woken up at 2 AM, so 6 hours of just pain. Went and that Jill woke up, Evie wasn't going to school because she's now got COVID as well. So, um I drove myself to urgent care, and they did a bunch of tests and gave me some medication to try and help, and, weren't really sure what was going on. X-rays didn't show anything. Booked me in for an ultrasound on the Wednesday morning. Um, Sent me home with some stronger painkillers and, like, we'll see what the ultrasound turns up. So I was in urgent care for about 8 hours on Tuesday.
Ugh.
Um, Tuesday night, I woke up about 2 AM. The pain had transitioned from being just a constant 5 to being a stabbing pain a little bit further to the right. It was like spiking up to a 7 or 8.
Mm.
Um, but it was as long as I was like lying flat on my back or like slightly elevated on my back, it was a 0 or 1. I was fine. If I moved, stabbing pain, not good. So we phoned an ambulance. Because Jill and the kids have all got COVID and can't do anything. Um, so I went to the Foothills Medical Center, wheeled in on a gurney, which was an experience. Um, yeah, so I'll do the funny part because obviously it's a podcast, it should be entertaining. But they got me through. They moved me from the ambulance gurney onto a bed in the hallway, and then they got me a bed in A&E. Um, I saw, like, the nurses and stuff, and they did some tests and hooked me up to, some morphine and, so I was pretty out of it then, like, pain's manageable because 'cause I'm on my back and I'm on morphine now.
Yep.
Um,
Right.
and then they
The
came out.
whole world's manageable at that point.
Yeah, they came around again and was like, "Would you like any more pain medication?" I'm like, "To be honest, I'm pretty comfortable in this position. The pain's really manageable as long as I'm lying down, so I should be fine." Like, "Okay, right, well, the doctor will see you at some point." "Yep, cool." So I'm, like, in and out of consciousness, um, and then they wake me up and say, "Oh, you need to get in a wheelchair." I'm like, "Right, okay. Must be going to see a doctor."
Taking
Um,
you to the HIDA scan.
so they put me into a wheelchair, and obviously the pain comes back because 'cause I'm no longer lying down, but I'd turned down the pain med, and they're in the middle of taking me somewhere. The place they're taking me is the front door. They
What?
wheel me to the front door of admitting and just leave me in admitting and don't say anything and walk away.
What?
So I'm
Am
now
I going
I'm
home?
now
Like, what the hell?
I'm now back in pain with no idea what's going on. Some amount of drugs still in my system that is like wearing off, exhaustion from not eating and sleeping for 2 days. No idea what's going on. And I'm just whimpering, like in my pajamas, like in a wheelchair, just like clutching my side in pain, and no one's talking to me or telling me anything. So I finally wave a nurse over and they're like, it doesn't matter if you're through in there or through in this part, the waiting time's the same. I'm like, that's not the point of my question. The point of my question is I turned down pain medication because I was lying down in a bed. You don't have a bed for me to lie down in right now, so I'm in a lot of pain. And I know that you're not going to give me pain medication because you're an admitting nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically, yeah, it shut up and be in pain for 6 hours.
Oh,
For
gee.
Holy crap!
4 in the morning, no, I arrived there at 4 in the morning. This must have been 6 a.m. So it was, yeah, like 6 a.m. until lunchtime was when they finally got me admitted into a hospital. So I was sat in this chair in pain for 6 hours. Um, then everything was great because I got drugs again.
Hey, you got to lay
Right.
down.
Yeah. Um, they I had my, requisition form for my ultrasound scan with me, which I'd missed at this point because that was at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was still just sat in I was like, "Should I get Jill to come and pick me up and take me for my ultrasound in Cochrane and then bring me back?" You know what I mean? But,
They had never known you
um,
were gone.
yeah, um, but yeah, it was fine, it got through, I finally got an ultrasound. And they were like, "Oh, it's not really conclusive, but we believe it's probably a gallbladder, so we should take it out." So I agree because you're a doctor and I'm a moron who turns down pain medication when it's offered to them. So you shouldn't trust my medical judgment for anything. If
At
you say
all.
take it out, we'll take it out. And then it's like, all right, okay, so that means you can't eat anything or drink anything because you're on the waiting list of surgery now. So this is all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, gets to 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. I'm still on a waiting list. No one's come to see me. Um,
Are they still at least giving you fluids intravenously at this
I
point?
had some. I had an IV like 3 or 4 times
Okay.
for fluids. So yeah, I wasn't like dehydrated or anything.
I mean, because
Um,
otherwise you're gonna like wither away and
yeah,
die in
I
that
was.
position.
No, it's okay. I was allowed to eat an ice cube.
Oh,
Oh,
isn't
There
that
you
nice?
go.
that was
Yeah.
very nice. Yeah.
What's that? It tastes like a monkey's taking a shit in your mouth. Here, have an ice cube. That'll fix it. Um, So, yeah, it got to, like, 2 a.m., and the nurse is like, "I don't think they're coming. Do you want anything to eat?" I'm like, "No, I just give me more meds and let me go to sleep." Um, I think it got to, like, 2 o'clock on the Thursday was when I got taken to surgery. Um, and then they put me under, obviously, did a laparoscopic, so, like, 4 small incisions. I've got, like, 1 across my, upper abdomen, 1 above my belly button, 2 in the side, whipped out my gallbladder, um, and then, yeah, it's been progressively better every day since then, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was an experience. When the surgeon finally spoke to me before I left, it was said about how bad it actually was, because obviously from the tests, it was like, yeah, it might be a gallbladder. We'll just take it out because it won't do you any harm to not have it. But they took it out and it was all necrotized and filled with sludge. So that's always a nice
Oh,
thing you want to,
lovely.
yeah. So that internal organ is just dead and filled with slime. Don't worry about it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It'll just
fine.
Yeah,
explode on you after a while if you're
yeah,
not careful.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all good. So I don't have a gallbladder anymore. Um, so
Right
yeah,
there with you.
yeah.
I'm there with you. I understand it.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm like,
I'm back to pretty much normal now. I had, like, not a greasy pizza, but a pizza that had meat on it the other day, after the X-Wing event I ran yesterday, and that was, like, the tester of, like,
Oh yeah,
how quickly is this gonna go through me, and how messy is it gonna be when it comes out?
yeah,
But it was all fine. It was all fine. Um,
yeah. It'll take you a while for your body to kind of adjust to both sides of that spectrum.
yeah,
Because you're gonna have times where you're gonna eat something greasy. The one thing is nut. That's gonna be the biggest thing because you're not able to digest nuts correctly. So if you're gonna eat nuts, make sure you chew them to the finest
Outer.
powder that you can get
yeah.
them to, because otherwise it's comes out as glass. It feels like glass coming out. So
Oh, it's been some fun times, but, I sold, my Imperial Knight army, my Imperial Knight Codex, my Imperial Knight data cards. Um, I sold them for like $250 and then immediately went to one of a nice supermarket and spent $250 on some fruit and some like chicken skewer, like high quality food. I was like, yeah, it's not a bird like so obviously I've not worked since being at Adepticon. Jill's not worked while I was at Adepticon. I can't look after the children at the moment because I can't lift them up and do stuff.
right, right.
So Jill can't work and I can't work, so we're literally down to just her, maternity pay. So I'm like, I don't feel like it's fair for me to put this burden on the family. I sell some toy soldiers and use it to buy food. That's always a good feeling.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
no point
yeah.
in your life do you feel like a failure when that comes up.
It
Oh,
happens though.
It's
oh, I know.
Yeah,
temporary.
Oh, it's fine.
yeah.
Like it was a sealed box of Imperial Knights at the Chainbreaker Lance from Christmas that I'd not opened. I'm pretty sure I didn't need it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a oh. But yeah, today I've not had any pain meds at all. The pain meds are paracetamol, and you can double up paracetamol and Advil. So like
Yep.
Tylenol and Advil.
Yeah.
Or it would be if you're in the UK, that would be paracetamol and aspirins you can take concurrently. They
Right.
did give me some um hydroprymazine or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's been I believe it is more like morphine tablets, which is effectively
Yeah.
like heroin, whatever. It'll be fine.
Pretty
I
much.
don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Next thing you
I
know, all of Chris's models in the background are gone, and I don't know
no,
what happened.
but I'm a big fan of going to a pharmacy and them saying, "Okay, so take a seat while the time lock safe opens." Like, what do I actually want these pills? But yeah, I learned from my
Just
mistake though. I had a follow-up appointment with my doctor. I was joking about this with one of the guys who was playing in the X-Wing event yesterday. Is a doctor. Hi, Jeff. Um, I was like, yeah, I was definitely exhibiting drug-seeking behavior when I went to the doctor because I was seeking drugs. Uh, uh, Never again will I be offered pain medication and say, "No, it's all right."
That's right.
I hate to
Oh,
interrupt the
you
story,
know
but
what? I'm gonna
Craig
man up.
Craig flickered there for a second, so I don't know if that is a big deal or not. I know
Um,
that you had exhibited issues with him the last recording that you had.
it seems okay. Yeah, and
Okay,
we're doubling up because we're doing video today. Everyone's been
sure.
watching me not paying attention to you guys, putting basing material on Lord of the Rings models.
I was gonna ask, was that a Balrog? That's what I thought.
So one of the things that I did whilst I was in pain was watch Lord of the Rings again. Um, and then I was like, there'd been a Lord of the Rings event in the Sentry Box, and they emailed me to book, and were like, "Oh, we'll want at least 8 tables, 16 players." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." What that's what the inside my head voice said. I typed back, "Yes, no problem. We can get that many tables for you." Um, then the event got closer. It's like, "Oh, we probably need 18 tables, like 18 players." I'm like, whatever. Like, in a monologue, Kris is very, very derogatory towards Lord of the Rings players by all accounts.
Yep,
Then
obviously.
then it's 20, then it was 24, and, like, on the day of the event, they had 22 players.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I
Jeez.
was like, "You know what? I'll hold that L."
I'll take that. I'll own
Yeah,
that.
um, and then
Not
one of
gonna
the
lie, when we were at Games Workshop, we saw like all the Lord of the Rings models they had there. They had something. They had a diorama set up there, and I'm
yeah,
like, man, that game looks really cool.
yeah. We can talk about Lord of the Rings another time, 'cause I think it's an
Mm,
interesting conversation as, one of our, like, general real shows. Maybe I'll do it
sure,
as my
sure.
topic next time, I'll whatever. But,
Yeah, that works.
but one of the other staff really likes Lord of the Rings and, like, really likes the game and was like, "Oh, I'll run Lord of the Rings stuff then," because I'm like, "Guys, we had 22 players turn up for an event for a system I didn't expect us to get 8 players for. So, like, something's going on here that I'm not keyed into this community, so we should probably do something." That was, like, February, the event. The event was early February. It's middle of April now. There's been no
Mm.
games, so I'm like, "You know what? I watch Lord of the Rings," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, Mario Goblins, that'll be cool." And then I went in the store and we had nothing in stock. So that luckily the used cabinet had a couple of bits and pieces. So I've got an old metal Balrog, which was
Oh, that one's metal.
an absolute travesty to put together. Um, I I salvaged a cave troll, which was like started painting, but it's not too thick, so I should be able to paint over it. And then I just put a quick order in from GW's website, that wasn't for the Lion or the Lion Son of a Forest book, so obviously it just dispatched quickly and was no problems doing my order because
Because maybe those other ones might have sold out. Interesting.
in minutes.
In
Uh,
minutes.
yeah. So yeah, I've got a bunch of, Lord of the Rings Moria goblins to put together. So today, as a peek behind the curtain, is Sunday. I'm gonna be playing a 400-point game on Tuesday. Um and the person I'm playing against won't play against you if your army's not fully painted.
Same guy.
Yeah, so the guy I play Necromunda with, yeah, Mike, one of the staff.
Yep.
So we did a 150 point like demo style game just to make sure that what I thought the rules works. I've played like two towers release date time, like played a little bit. Um, but I just wanted to double check that nothing had really changed. So we did that, and then we're gonna step it up to 400 points, but obviously I finished building everything today, so now I'm putting the basing material on. So I believe tomorrow I may do a painting stream on Twitch.
Ooh.
Maybe it could happen. So,
I'll be at work. I'll be at work tomorrow, but if you do it in the evening, I might be able to watch it in the evening.
it should be running all the live long day because I've gotta paint a 400-point Moria Goblin force
I
in
don't have a big.
one day.
I don't have a scale for how big or small an army like with their
So
what.
this model is a Moria Goblin with a shield. He is 5 points.
Okay, so it's basically 40K scale.
Yeah. Um, so 400 points. My army is a Moria Goblin captain with a drum and 2 drummers, a cave troll, and then 8 goblins with shields. Then I have a sorcerer, sorry, a goblin shaman with 6 goblins with bows, and then I have a second hero with um 8 goblins with spears. So what 32 goblins, 1 troll, and 3 characters. That's
Interesting.
that's what I'll paint tomorrow if I get
It
the
sounds
basing finished tonight.
close to the scale of 40K.
Yeah, roughly. I mean,
Probably closer to Age of Sigmar, but I don't know anything about that game, so I can't really talk to it.
well, it's one of those like, um, if I was running a fellowship, I would probably have 4 models at 400 points.
Right. That's what I remember whenever it released.
Mm. But, I can't run the fellowship because Sentry Box doesn't have the fellowship in stock. 'Cause why would it?
Hmm.
You know?
'Cause it's all sold out and people are buying it, and you're
Man, I
just not
watch
competing
Lord of
with
the
them.
Rings, I'm really hyped, I love miniatures games, I'll go and buy some Lord of the Rings miniatures. Which
That's
ones
okay.
wouldn't you keep in stock? I mean, we have 3 copies of Frundrill the Elven King. I don't even know who he is. I couldn't pick him out of the lineup. Like,
Hmm.
3 of those packs, 2 Isengard trolls. Nah, don't worry about it. No fellowship at all. Just kill me.
I'm not
Just
gonna lie, I came away from Adepticon seeing all the cool stuff they did for Horus Heresy and went, "Ooh, that's a game I'm kind of interested in because it's still kind of 40K, but it's all during the Horus Heresy." And then I'm like, "Oh wait, aside from the starter set, every freaking model is Forge World, and a standard 10-man squad's gonna cost me like $200?
there's plastic
Dang!"
it's all plastic, right?
No, it's not. It's not. So you do have stuff
We've
for the
got it in
starters.
stock. We've got it in stock in the store in plastic sprues.
Am I talking out of my ass?
Uh,
Entirely
I
possible.
mean, I don't wanna go there, but I think so.
It's
I'll
entirely possible.
oh, you keep talking, and then I'll just come in and correct you after I've got you the
No, please do.
because I feel like me going into my work log on, remote accessing the system and looking up stock isn't the most interesting of podcasts. Even when we're doing the video format, me not even looking at the camera anymore is definitely
It's
definite
fine, it's
yeah,
fine. But, like, so I would talk to some of the guys at the store, they said, "Oh, yeah, no, the game's great, except, like, all the infantry are still." No, look, see, these gotta be this is the Mark IV armor, they have to be in plastic, right?
yeah,
They'd have to
all
be.
of yeah, we've got Mark 3s through to Corvus in plastic. Corvus is the
Hmm,
model that comes in the starter box.
hmm,
Um, yeah, we in stock, I have 5 Mark 3s, 4 Mark 4s, 3 Mark 6s, um, and yeah, it's boxes of 20 plastic for $95 Canadian, so probably $60 US.
interesting. And none of this is taking me over to the Forge World site. Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to tell Evan he's full of shit because this is not an accurate statement.
yeah, when he was right, but when they released the Age of Darkness box, they launched it all as an actual G Forge World is still doing the rules. A bunch of a lot of stuff you can get from Forge World, but equally, like all of those new character boxes and everything, Fafnir Ran, all of that, it's all just GW plastic sprues.
Hmm,
Hmm.
interesting. But your rank and file troopers all appear to be in plastic.
Yep,
And that starter set is pretty beefy. Tank, whole bunch of Terminators, troops,
yep,
Dreadnought. That's pretty damn sweet. I should have got it whenever it came out. Anyway, so yeah, that covers that.
yeah.
You're feeling much better now. I am kind of genuinely curious to see if you end up with heartburn after that. Like if that was the problem the whole time for the years of your life, like it was just slowly but surely giving signs that
No, you'll still have heartburn and stuff.
Well,
It's
my
just
hope is that if I have heartburn, it's actually heartburn, which means that heartburn medication will help, because
yeah,
yeah,
that
the
was a
you
big
do
thing that,
the
like, nothing helped when I had it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you'll have to take something like a omeprazole or Prilosec pretty
hmm,
much the rest of your life because I will say this, the acid reflux is worse since for me, but I do take, I take omeprazole to help curb that portion of it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, my wife got me a couple months back, my wife got this is not an unpaid sponsorship. She got me one of these HydroSpark water bottles, which basically has a Bluetooth app that ties into your phone that says how much water you've been drinking. And I'm on 100 ounces of water a day, which means I piss my brains out during most of the day. But I noticed about a month into doing that that I didn't have any heartburn. And here I am almost 90 days later. Hang on, I'll tell you how many in a second. I'm sorry, 87 days. I have not had heartburn in 87 days. And I don't know if there the other thing that's happened is I've stopped drinking a lot of soda. Like, I think I have one for lunch and maybe one later in the so because I drink so much, I don't wanna drink that. So, I don't know if there's a correlation between reducing the amount of, soda that I've been drinking that's correlating to the lack of the heartburn, or if it's the amount of water that I've been drinking. One of those 2 things has caused me to go 87 days without heartburn.
That's good.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take
it all depends what you eat too, you know?
I haven't changed my eating habits. Pure
I get
garbage.
that. Well, I mean, but pure
Uh,
garbage to one is not pure garbage
yeah,
to
and
This
another.
this is true.
me eating
This is
healthy
true.
is still worse than most people's pure garbage. Just gonna say it, you know. I'm not surprised my insides were dying. I would have given up 2 insides. It's okay.
Yep.
I
So,
don't blame you.
I know you're the host on this one, Ed, but I know that you're gonna tell us later on that you've got work tomorrow. We should
I do.
probably move it around along to one of the topics you 2 were gonna talk about before I rudely interrupted and said I'd join you.
Oh, I
No,
don't
no,
know.
no, 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 no. Ed and I talked before the show in that, this was just free form as we
Yeah,
were gonna do it,
I only have
you
one
know.
thing. Like I said, the for those that we didn't actually get to, we may get into it next week. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll do it for mine whenever mine comes up. I had 2 things that I wanted to talk about, mostly because Sean and I have been talking back and forth on 2 very specific topics. One, since we are doing this in video, while I was at Adepticon, the day that I left, my Steam Deck arrived at my house, which means I did not have it for Adepticon like I was hoping to.
Mhm.
But I have definitely been tinkering around with it over the last several weeks, and I'm having a ball with it. I just got done doing all of the ROMs and stuff and put a whole bunch of stuff on for the emulation side of it. So I'm just now tinkering with that. So I will save that experience for my next episode. The other thing, of course, was I don't know how many people this is going to resonate with or not, but Sean and I are both aficionados on aquariums and aquascaping and doing live plants in aquariums. And my wife surprised me with an early birthday present, which was getting me a 29-gallon tank. When we moved into this house, there was a section of our wall whenever you open up the living room door to get into our dining room slash living room area. There's a wall that I've always felt like a fish tank belonged there, but there's no power outlet, so I've never been able to do one there. But we found a workaround. We've got an electrician coming out to install one. In the meantime, I've got like this really long extension cable going there. But she bought me a fish tank, so I am going through the process of cycling my tank, getting all my potted plants. I just got done adding my red cherry shrimp. They arrived yesterday, alive, healthy, and well. They are doing well today, and I was going to talk about all of that, but I think we can save that for another episode. I'll save that for mine. The only one thing I did want to make sure that I talked about, because it is super cool. If you remember, probably 2 episodes ago at this point, I don't recall. I talked a little bit about the job that I work at and the event that was being run for Donate Life Month, and the dice that were being given away to all of the nerds. And here in my formerly nicotine stained fingers, I ended up with a set of the healing dice, which are D&D dice that actually are inlet with organs that you can transplant whenever you are an organ donor. The whole packaging is so cool. It's fantastic. I was a little disappointed that the card design was not signed by Will Wheaton. I'm just throwing them teasing. I'm done arguing. But these things are so cool. Um, I don't know how well this is going to show up on a camera, but this is a heart inside a D20. There we go.
Yeah,
I try to They're so cool. They are
Yeah, I can see
legitimately
that.
so cool. Now, I will freely admit, and before anyone asks, the people over at Donate Life America had sent over an email to all of the OPOs saying, "Hey, if you have any staff members who might be interested in these, we can do our best to see if we can try about getting them," which is how I got them. So I did not rig the contest. I did not do anything unethical to get them. My only contractual obligation to being able to get them is I need to post an unboxing video on social media, which we're going to do for my company's website, which I've not filmed yet, which is why I haven't used them yet. So they have stayed in this box. I'm keeping with my ethics. I will do my obligation. I will not use them until such time as I've actually got the opportunity to do all that filming. So I was super excited to get them. They're just so cool. They're so cool.
Yeah. Cool. So how many were given away?
So they had 50 sets that they gave away, and the way that they told us is they had about 20 sets that they were had reserved kind of out. and my guess would be is these were the first production run. Because I don't know if you went to the website or not, where whenever
Yeah.
they show the dice on the website, all of the organs that are inside the dice are centered inside the resin, and
Hmm.
not all of mine are. So,
No, okay.
my guess is these were the first couple of test ones off the production line, and they didn't wanna throw them away, so they decided to give those away for so they're more what am I thinking? They're more decorative than they are functional. Because my guess is going to be with that little thing in there that's gonna weight the dice. I don't know that yet, I haven't rolled them to find out, but my
It
guess is they're
depends if
gonna
it
weigh.
weighs it on a 20 or a 1, really, doesn't it?
I know, right? I mean,
'Cause one of
Yeah.
those things is
all
much more functional than the other.
this is true. This is true. So my guess is that these were the pre-production runs of them testing out and trying it out, and then they just went through and finished the process. The box is fantastic too that we went in, but that would be my guess.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not going to complain because they're badass. In worst case scenario, they're going to make the coolest wound counters on 40K models ever.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
it's going to be awesome.
Yep. For sure.
So that's it. I think we're done. Chris, do you
Oh, I
have
mean,
anything you want to?
I was more saying if you wanted to talk about fish tanks and stuff, we should move on to that sooner rather than later. Like,
Oh no 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 no!
Nah,
like
we're
I
good.
we didn't need to do flight decks so much, right? It's like just go into fish decks and steam deck. Fi
no.
fi
I'll
fish
save
decks
that
and
for
steam
my
tanks.
Yeah, I'll save that for my episode. We want to let you get some rest and ease up on that one. So I think we're good for now. I think it's a good one to kind of get us back into the strides, and then we're recording again on Thursday. I did mention to Sean in our pregame. I am taking my kids once again to our yearly trip to Gettysburg. I'm due to return from Gettysburg Thursday afternoon, but like all the festivities are done around noon, 1 o'clock. It's a 2-hour trip from there to my house, so I should be home in plenty of time, so it should not affect recording at all.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unless something crazy happens, I'll have my Steam Deck with me. I'll sit alongside the road waiting for the tow truck to come.
Yeah, well, I will hopefully have played a game of Lord of the Rings with fully painted army, you can say, you know?
Cool.
Yep.
Um, I'll have lots of other things to talk about that I've not covered 'cause,
Man,
I
I've got
I got
2 games of 40K to talk about that I haven't got a chance to do yet.
yeah, so it'll be a good one. I'm excited.
Eh, alright, well, then that's gonna do it. Chris, do you wanna do any of the housekeeping, or do you just since this was a shoot the shit episode, we'll just call it here?
Well, just I'll do the normal stuff. Obviously, thank you to all the patrons for, supporting us and, being very patient because I believe, like, there was a show where I messed up, um, so we
Hmm,
missed
I
one,
forgot about
and
that.
then, so yeah, like, we've been pretty sparse on the lack of focus through, various, happenstances, being in hospital makes it hard to record, not gonna lie. I
Yep,
did have my
it's really
phone with
hard.
me, so I was like, "You know what? If I have a show, I'm gonna call in." But, yeah, it was, an interesting time. Um,
And Sean and I did try to get a recording a little bit earlier in the week, but then it just didn't work out.
Mm, nope.
yeah, it's all good. We're
That's
there now.
kind of why we're doing this one now.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah,
just to
get
get back,
caught up.
like you said, get back in the swing of things.
Yeah. Um, it's been interesting. I'm happy to see the Discord's growing still, so make sure you join that and, post your painting pictures. Let us know how you're doing for different, like, X-Wing stuff. Um, what other games you've been playing. Yeah, just generally, it's been a good, fun time. It's been a it's been a it's been a few weeks, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like everything's coming good now, so I'm
Uh,
happy, and these guys have been great, so thank you, everyone, and yeah, I suppose we'll speak to you again in what, 4 days?
about 4 or 5 days. As far as they're concerned, it'll be a few more days than that, but yeah. All right, Sean, always good talking to you, my friend.
Don't know what our topic is yet for Thursday, so even with the extra time, I really haven't been able to come up with anything
I thought
good.
you had a topic. You already had a topic
Just
planned.
I don't.
steal heads, do Steam Deck or Fish Tank, pick one.
I thought I did, then we missed, and then with everything, because you guys did Adepticon and stuff. So
Yeah.
since
Well,
then,
I
I've
was looking
forgotten.
Oh, you forgot to simple. It was favorite and least favorite games and why.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, it may change from that.
It
We
might.
may save that one for another time.
Damn, I already had some choice words for some games. Damn.
We'll see. It depends.
I was
Depends
gonna
if I can come up with something better.
I was gonna tear apart the entire Wormhole Hordes community, man. I'll tell you,
Oh, big sad.
easily like what like the kind of apropos for what you said earlier. You know, whenever you're teaching a person a game, you shouldn't be kicking their shit in, and that's what
That's what they do.
that's what they do. And like no remorse, none whatsoever. Like I'm just trying to learn the game. Like what do you?
Right.
No. Anyway, yeah. No,
Yep.
I had a whole 10-minute spiel I was gonna go on that.
Yeah. Well, we may still do it. We'll see.
Okay, and then be prepared for that 10-minute spiel because it's coming. Um, Chris, always good to talk to you, my friend.
It's good to still be alive.
Yes, it's good to have you still alive. Always good. All right. On that note, we're gonna close out this little shooting the shit session, and we'll see you guys in a few more days. Well, or a few more hours, whatever way it is, the way you download it, I suppose. As always, guys, fly casual.